Welcome to Mindfulness Mondays. I'm Danielle Paulo, as I had mentioned. Our next mindfulness session will be on October 28th. The Parkinson's Foundation hosts weekly education and wellness programs through our PD Health at Home virtual programming. Join us for Mindfulness Mondays, Wellness Wednesdays, and Fitness Fridays. Our next Wellness Wednesday will be this Wednesday on October 16th, and we will do an introduction and basic overview of Parkinson's disease. So Parkinson's varies from person to person and changes over time. So in this Parkinson's 101 webinar, we will talk about the causes of Parkinson's, common symptoms, available treatments, and effective strategies for managing them. This is a great program to invite your family, friends, or peers to learn a little bit more about what you or your loved one may be experiencing. So find out more and register for our PD Health at Home programs at parkinson.org/pdhealth. And finally, before we move towards our formal mindfulness practice, join us this November for our Care Partners Summit webinar series, designed specifically for those supporting someone with Parkinson's. Whether you're new to the role or have been caring for a while, these webinars will offer valuable strategies for managing Parkinson's, maintaining strong relationships, and navigating daily challenges with confidence. So learn more and register at parkinson.org/summit. And now I'm so excited to invite back Dr. Taylor Rush from Cleveland Clinic. Dr. Rush, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Danielle, so much for having me. And it's so good to see all of you today and all the different locations people are signing in from across the US and really across the world. And I was thinking a bit about our time today, and for some context, I today is my first day back to work after being off for almost 3 weeks. And I found myself thinking a lot yesterday about getting back to work and all the things that I need to do and all the things that I need to do for my kids and everything that may have stockpiled while I was gone. And there was a lot of busyness that I noticed in my mind. Part of the busyness was also, what am I going to talk about for Mindfulness Monday? And I realized in the midst of the busyness that perhaps that was actually the perfect topic to discuss today, because it's often something that comes up when I talk to people about their mindfulness practice. Because when we try to settle into a meditation, you might notice that your mind is busy. You might see that your to-do list gets a bit more prominent. You might be thinking about your daily life and the demands that exist. You may be thinking about some of the physical symptoms that you're experiencing, things that may be going on around you that are intrusive, like, gosh, that clock keeps going off, even though I thought I turned off the alarm. Or, gosh, the neighbor's car seems to be really loud. So all those different environmental intrusive things that can sometimes take up our mind space. And sometimes also when we're trying to meditate, you might notice uncomfortable emotions. Some people may notice uneasiness, discomfort, stress, anxiety. And so it gets to a point where people will say, well, gosh, when I meditate, that's supposed to be calming. That's supposed to make me feel better. The mind should get quiet. But it's often not the case. And then that can sometimes add to frustration and anxiety. And so, one thing that I often try to emphasize is that I think we have to really normalize the fact that our minds can be busy most of the time. And especially nowadays, we live in a world where there is constant input. We have input from our TVs, our computers, our phones, our surroundings. There's 24-hour news cycles and, endless social media streams. And it means that our minds have every opportunity to chew on something and stay busy. And so, I think that that's something we all struggle with and something that is just somewhat normal in today's society. And while we can all experience kind of this busy mind syndrome, I think also tacking on the fact that many of you are dealing with a chronic health condition with Parkinson's, it can add even more fuel to that busy mind process. So, many of my patients will say, even when things are going okay, even when things are going well and everything is smooth sailing, I may have some nagging feelings about what will the future bring? How is my body going to behave today? Will I be able to manage on this upcoming trip that I'm taking or this event that I'm going to attend? How is all of this affecting my loved ones? And so, the busy mind doesn't always, calm down, even when things may be going well. But I do think that mindfulness brings a rather amazing opportunity to better understand our busy minds without getting overwhelmed by it. Because we can't necessarily control the stress or demands that are in our lives. That's why it's stressful, because we can't always control it. However, I think often we can manage how we then interact with our thoughts. And so rather than trying to shut out the busyness, trying to avoid it, sometimes we have to lean into it in order to better understand it and have a better relationship with it. And, I have told this story before, so if you've heard it, forgive me. But when I was in mindfulness training, I went through a program at Duke. We did an all-day meditation. And at the end of the day, we had a question and answer session with the different instructors. And the main instructor, who was well known at the time, Jeff Brantley, someone asked him, at what point does the busyness calm down? At what point does my mind just kind of sink into a sense of complete peace and I don't have all these different thoughts whirring through my head? And he kind of looked at the participant and smiled a bit and said, well, I've been doing this for close to 40 years and I'll let you know when it happens. So again, I think it just helped to normalize the fact that the thoughts are going to flow. And sometimes, thinking about our thoughts like a river can be helpful because the stream of consciousness, right, is always changing. What comes through the river is always changing. How those thoughts may present can change. How those feelings are, how strong they are can change. And so just like water running through a river, we can sometimes find ourselves, overwhelmed by the sheer number of thoughts that are flowing through us. So I thought that we could actually use that analogy today of the flowing river of thoughts in a meditation exercise. And this one's actually based on a meditation by Holly Rogers. So I want to give credit where credit is due. And we're going to see how we can lean into some of the busyness of thoughts without them necessarily overwhelming or consuming us. Okay, so let's do a little experiment and see how it goes. So as usual, go ahead and find a comfortable position in whatever chair, couch, floor, bed feels most comfortable for you. Just as long as your posture is supported by whatever is beneath you. You may feel your feet on the floor or your heels propped up on something. And you are welcome to close your eyes. For some people, that provides some shield against external distraction. And for others, it's more comfortable for them to keep a soft gaze a few feet in front of them. So as you settle into this position, just notice where your body is making contact with the furniture beneath you. Noticing where your feet are resting, where your arms are resting, Notice how your spine is supported. Noticing the position of your shoulders and the position of your neck and how it's supporting your head. Now I want you to consider gently shifting your focus to your breath, our most common and beloved anchor to the present moment. And just noticing the breath as it travels in through your nose or mouth. Make space in your lungs, expanding your abdomen, and noticing the breath as it travels back out. Some find it helpful to feel the sensation of breath in one particular place the most. So it may be at the tip of your nose, the back of your throat, or as your lungs inflate. Anchoring to one of those sensations can sometimes help you to link into your body a little bit more. We're just trying to discover where you can most clearly make contact with the feel of your breath. Keeping your awareness open and relaxed. As you continue this process, you'll probably find that your mind has wandered or other thoughts have inserted themselves. Consider this being in the river of thought. You might be planning something, wondering about something, worried about something. The moment you notice that your mind has wandered and your attention is no longer on your breath, we consider that a moment of mindfulness because you are seeing clearly what your mind is doing in that moment. You are mindful of being in that river of thought. Once you notice it, you can simply step out of the river and turn your attention back to your breath. Anchoring in the awareness of that sensation with the steady rhythm of your in-breath and your out-breath. By stepping out of the river, it's not that the river goes away. It just gives you a different vantage point of those thoughts. And you might find that you fall back into the river over and over and over. But every time you notice that and return your attention to your breath, you are building your ability to be mindful. You are building the muscles of your attention and awareness. And by stepping out of that river, You're making a choice of observing your thoughts versus getting carried away by your thoughts. And as you watch the flow of these thoughts, it can be helpful to practice letting go of any judgment or criticism that may show up. Because again, it's natural for the mind to wander and be busy. We're just setting aside time here to practice noticing it. Practice stepping out of the river whenever you fall in. Perhaps consider practicing letting go of any judgments about the content of what is in your river of thought. So our rivers tend to carry many things. Some of our thoughts are joyful or unique or intriguing. Sometimes they're less helpful or unexpected. It's okay to gently remind yourself that they're all just thoughts floating by. I often tell my patients that recognizing a thought is just a thought can be an incredibly powerful paradigm shift. Because there's no need to judge, no need to try and change your thoughts. You're just learning to settle in on the bank of the river, watching your thoughts flow with curiosity, compassion, and sometimes even a little humor. And if you notice that you get stuck on any particular thought, it can be helpful to silently label it as thinking. Sometimes objectively doing that can help us to let it go and gently come back to your attention on the breath. And we repeat this process as often as needed, recognizing that each time we do, we're strengthening our mindfulness capabilities. Now, let's take one more intentional and deep breath right here, allowing our lungs to fill and slowly exhaling. Maybe noticing some of our muscles let go a little bit in the shoulders, neck, back area. Bringing a little bit more active awareness to our bodies. You're shifting weight from one side of your pelvis to the other. Rolling the shoulders just slightly. Slowly wiggling your fingers and toes. Becoming more actively aware of your surroundings by either opening your eyes or shifting out of your soft gaze. And reorienting to our mindfulness space here in our Zoom room when you're ready. All right, starting to see eyes open. Directing towards the camera here. So, as always, I would love to hear how this practice went for you guys. It's always a slightly different experience, right? And every time we step into that river of thought, it's always going to be different water. And so, I know for me, some days I'm incredibly in sync with this process and it feels so natural. And other days I feel like I'm trying to walk through my meditation with, two left feet. And I think again, the peaks and the pitfalls of this are normal for all of us. So I would love to hear how it went today. Got a couple messages here so far. So Karen had said that it was a wonderful and beautiful experience. Wonderful and calming, very calming, lovely mindfulness imagery. Love the river. You guys really like the imagery ones. I have noticed that. I've done a lake, I've done a mountain, I've done a couple, and I think I may have done river in the past too. So I think again that connection to nature, I think, can be an incredibly powerful experience for all of us. And so I think if that works for you, keep that in your back pocket when you're having a day where you could really anchor to something in nature, either in real life or through imagery. And so Jack had said, I really like the use of rivers. Rivers have always calmed me down. And let's see, fairly smooth today, very relaxing. Even my dogs are being more mindful this morning. I got to say, that's a first. I have not heard that I've been able to help someone's dogs with this process. Usually they tend to bark and they don't seem to like that their owner is talking to me on the computer. And enjoyed the practice, managed to get out of the river a few times. And helped anxiety level. Had a hard time letting go today. Too much going on, I think, which again, we meet ourselves where we're at. And some days it's going to be really hard to feel like you can get in that zone. Doesn't mean that trying is a bad idea. And even so, if it means that your stress or anxiety, it might be at an 8 or a 9 or plus, and it can be helpful to at least understand what your body is telling you and what you might need in that moment, even if it doesn't necessarily make you feel relaxed, right? And Babs had said, I did it backward. My river of clouds, no thought. Thought was jumping out of the river. So I jumped back in. So if the reverse works for you, by all means, that is perfectly okay. And my river of thought is flowing very rapidly today. Sometimes it's a very gentle flowing river. Sometimes it's, level 4 rapids, right? Nice experience. I got wet in the river, but only up to my knees. So I like that. And so not that your entire body was covered, you could still see and breathe. That's good. And river and clouds work well for me, motion and change. Yep. So river is a great one. Clouds, I've had people do imagery with clouds because think about, cloud gazing. A lot of us do when we're younger and, sometimes we forget about when we become adults. And the clouds are always changing. Even the one cloud that is still there, it morphs. Thoughts tend to do the same thing, and so that can be an incredibly helpful image to kind of encapsulate your thoughts a bit. So thank you guys. And Diane said, I'm in my kayak when I really need to calm. I like that. And so again, use this when you feel those that busyness, that river flow is starting to come up a bit. So, remember, mindfulness is not just about doing the meditation, but also noticing some of the barometer of where you are with life and how you're interacting with your thoughts, with other people. And so, keep this in mind for your practice throughout this week and beyond. And I will certainly, be here next month to hopefully offer another exercise for you to join in on. And in the meantime, definitely be mindful of your river.